Have you ever reacted to something so small and overreacted and later on thought, why did that thing hit me so hard? Or why did I overreact to that extent? Or maybe you keep ending up in the same kind of relationship. You procrastinate even when you want success. You people please even when it leaves you drained. What if I told you you might not be living from your present self, but you're piloting from childhood trauma? Hi guys, welcome back to the Primrose channel. I'm Primrose and this is your safe space for healing, self-care and rediscovery. Hi guys, today we are talking about how trauma keeps you stuck and how your inner child is still influencing your decisions and how to actually start healing. Trauma isn't just big dramatic abuse. Yes, trauma can include things like emotional, physical and financial abuse, even neglect. However, trauma can also be things like being continuously criticized as a child, feeling emotionally unseen, growing up in chaos, and having to be the adult at an early age, or simply never feeling safe to express your emotions. Trauma is anything that overwhelmed your nervous system and made you feel unsafe, powerless, or unworthy. And when trauma goes unhealed, your brain creates a survival mode and survival strategies. And those strategies becomes your personality, because all of us, we all have different personalities. And that's simply because of how we were brought up and how we grew up. Have you ever met someone and you think, why do you act the way you do? And why is this person the way they are? It's simply the foundation that they had when they were growing up. So for example, if you grew up in a household where you had to walk on eggshells, when you're now an adult, you might be hyper aware of other people's moods. So you might be overly sensitive. You can pick up people's moods. Even if I was upset in the house and I smashed the dough, that could trigger something in your nervous system, because maybe when you're younger, when you were growing up, smashing doors and banging of cupboards was a normal routine in your household. And also, if you were criticized constantly when you were a child, you may become a perfectionist. And some people might say this is a good thing, because you see people that are always on time. Everything that they do it to the perfect standards, and they get praises. But sometimes it's simply because they're piloting from trauma, because when they were growing up, they had to be perfect. For them to get that recognition and that love in that household, perfectionism was required of them, so they don't know how to be anything else. And same as if love felt inconsistent growing up, you may now see yourself chasing emotionally unavailable partners, and you probably think, oh, that's just them, but it's probably you, because when you grew up, emotionally and love was something that was not given to you. It's something that's foreign. So when you're in relationships, you almost attract what you know. You attract people who are emotionally unavailable. And if your needs were ignored when you were growing up, you might actually not know what you want, or you might actually grow up thinking that you deserve less. This is where things like boundaries are crossed. You find people in your life that cross boundaries, or people just use you for certain things, and you probably don't see anything wrong with that. That's simply because your needs were ignored when you're growing up, so you don't even know that you have needs, or you don't even think that your needs matters. And sometimes here's the truth. As an adult, you might think you're making big girl or big boy decisions. Underneath it all, it might be a 7-year-old running the show. So what are the signs that you are living in trauma, or you're piloting from trauma, or you're living from unhealed trauma? 1, you react instead of responding. So this might look like somebody cancels plans on you. You almost think like the world has ended, or someone texted you later than usual. You almost suspect like, oh, they don't love me anymore. You go into this overthinking spiral. Someone gives you a small criticism. To you, it feels like rejection. You need to understand that is not a weakness. That is simply your nervous system reliving what you went through as a child. Another point that shows that you're piloting from unhealed trauma is you sabotage good things. Things like you get into a healthy relationship, you finally get a healthy partner who loves you, who gives you the attention that you need, but you feel like you're not good enough, so you sabotage that. You end relationships before they even have a chance to bloom. Or in workplaces, you're close to success, you're close to getting a promotion, and then you start to procrastinate and you start to pulling away. You start thinking, oh, I'm not good enough for this job, or I don't think I'll be able to do these things. This is what's happening. Chaos feels familiar to you. Confusion feels familiar to you. And when you start being in safe environment or safe spaces or things that's going well for you, self-destruction is your go-to. Self-sabotage is your go-to. You feel not enough no matter what. You accomplish your goals, you get that job, you pass your exams, you get, your immigration status verified, but still, at the bottom of it all, you still feel empty. And sometimes that's simply a young part of you, a young 7-year-old waiting to be chosen, to be praised, and to be seen. And that's what happens when young children are raised in a neglectful way. They grow up still chasing a better version of themselves and they never find it. Sometimes you overgive. You're always the one showing up for everyone else. The helper, the reliable one. But deep down you are exhausted. And that's simply a child who learned that if I'm useful, then I'm loved. And in the opposite direction, you're shrinking yourself. How do you actually heal? Healing your inner child is not about blaming your parents or people that raised you. It's simply about recognizing that a younger version of you still needs safety in this moment. Here's how you start to heal. You notice the triggers. When you feel a big emotional reaction about to start, just pause and ask yourself, how do I feel right now? What is happening right now? Be present in your emotions and in your feelings. And learn to separate the past from the present. So for example, if you're in a relationship or in a situation where you're feeling abandoned, instead of saying, I feel abandoned, but I'm safe right now. And that distinction is powerful because it's helping you to recognize your emotion, but also making sure you recognize that you're safe. You're still not living in the past. The problem is with most of us, we are still stuck in our past. We are still stuck with the trauma that we went through. The only reason why we are stuck there is because we haven't started to do the work to recognize the pain and go through it, talk through it. Therapy. I always say this in my videos. If you feel like you experienced a traumatic event in your life, whether you were abused emotionally, physically, financially, it doesn't even have to be abuse, or whether you went through a traumatic divorce, right? If you feel like you're still stuck on something that happened years ago or months ago, you might need therapy or psychological help. Or maybe if you go to church, find someone in the church that you trust that you can open up to. And I'm not telling you this to say if you go to therapy or if you go and talk to someone, they will immediately solve your problems. No. No one out there can solve your problems than yourself. What I'm saying is there is power in taking out what's there and taking it out when you talk. Once you put it out, you then start to recognize the work that you need to do. And another way of healing yourself from past trauma could be start to reparent yourself. How many of us are having to reparent ourselves through raising our children? So if you didn't have an amazing childhood, or if you were abused, or if you went through a lot of things when you were younger, now that you're an adult, recognizing that what you went through was not amazing could be a good sign for you to now start to reparent yourself. Now start to do the opposite with your children. And ask yourself, what did I need back then that I didn't get? Was it comfort? Was it safety? Was it emotional safety? Was it physical safety? Protection, encouragement, validation? Start giving that to yourself. Talk to yourself gently. Set boundaries. Choose the right people to be in your life. And then rest without feeling guilt. I have to learn this about myself. I am someone that's constantly on the go. I could be sitting in the house and I'm tired. Physically, I'm tired, but I can't stop. I feel like I need to always be doing something. And I'm learning that it's okay for me to rest. It's okay for those plates in the sink to rest, and I'll wash them tomorrow. Because my friends usually laugh at me. They're like, oh my God, how can you leave dishes in the sink? Because previously, I would make sure the house is sparkling clean before I go to bed. But what am I doing? I am compromising the time that I have to rest and actually be present with myself. And what usually happens is I eventually get overwhelmed and I eventually crash. So it's important for you to rest. You're allowed to rest. It's okay. So remember, if you feel like you've been stuck in this cycle of your life right now, or if you simply feel like you've been working so hard but you're not moving forward, it might not be laziness, it might not be self-sabotage, it might simply be your unhealed trauma asking for attention. And healing doesn't mean you will never get triggered again. It means you will recognize the trigger and act as an adult. You know that saying like, oh my God, she's throwing her toys out the pram again. That's how people describe you when they see you overreacting, being overwhelmed and acting out of character. Sometimes it's a sign that shows that you are piloting from unhealed trauma, and healing starts identifying those areas of your life where you know that you need help and working through them. So if this video resonated with you, comment below, ready to heal, and I would like to know what patterns currently are you ready to break so that you can fully live the best life that you deserve. Again, thank you guys for tuning in and watching my video. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, drop a comment, and girl, if you've watched this video to the end and you have not subscribed, why? Subscribe to my channel, guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.